cosmic, 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 cosmic.
Welcome back to the universe of God. Here is where we discover it and then we uncover it. Thank you for tuning in to part 3 of the days of Noah. We are discovering the past so that we can understand the present. Thank you for tuning back in. If you are on part 3 with me, or if you're tuning in for the first time, I just want to take the time to say I appreciate you going on this journey with me, because I believe that we are learning together. We are discovering these things together. And what I've learned and discovered, I am here sharing with you to further your investigation of the days of Noah, or to help you understand the universe of God a little bit better, differently. But when we left off in part 2, I was just discussing what was going on in the days of Noah in regards to what sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie, and how the fallen angels were teaching men forbidden knowledge, as stated in the book of Enoch. They were teaching them technology. They were teaching them things that were forbidden. They were teaching them, special art, so to speak, witchcraft and things like that. Of course, along with other knowledge, that helped them to live and build some of the things that were exquisitely built back then. But eventually these people became like the slave race to the newly populated mix of fallen angels and human, which was called the Nephilim. So the newly populated world of hybrids was now taking over the earth, and the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. But, there's a but. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And we'll talk about why that is. So we're going to pick back up in Genesis 3. Before we go ahead, we're going to go to Genesis 3. And I'm going to share a few scriptures that are relative to what we are experiencing in the days of Noah. So Genesis 3. Verse 1 through, I think, verse 5. The serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. One day he asked the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden?" "Of course we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden," the woman replied. "It's only the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden that we are not allowed to eat. God said, you must not eat of it or even touch it. If you do, you will die." "You won't die," the serpent replied to the woman. "God knows that your eyes will be opened as soon as you eat it, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." The woman was convinced. She saw that the tree was beautiful and its fruit looked delicious, and she wanted the wisdom it would give her. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it too. And at that moment their eyes were opened, and they suddenly felt shame at their nakedness. So that was Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 through 7. I'm sorry. So why is this important? Because we see the serpent, who was crafty. He was the shrewdest of all the animals in the animal kingdom, and he was crafty, and he was a deceiver, and he he told Eve that what God said to her wasn't all the way true. He said, God, knows you're not going to die. You won't die, but God knows that your eyes are going to be open. And he caused her to question what God had told her. And the woman desired wisdom, which I can totally identify with. Desiring wisdom. It takes a lot of wisdom to navigate in this world. And so eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why is this important? Because it brings us to the days of Noah, where after eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we see over 1,000 years later that mankind has grown very wicked. Eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil has led mankind on a journey of death and destruction. So, God, the serpent told the woman, did God really say that you must not eat from the fruit of any of the trees in the garden? And then he told her she won't die, but her eyes will be open. And so there was a spiritual death. There was something that had died once she decided to start partaking of a life where you learned through duality. A life where you learned through good and evil and positive and negative and the constant dual battle within. She chose to eat from that tree. And so here, fast forward, we have a time where eating from the tree of knowledge and good and evil has not killed you directly flat dead, but it's killing you slowly over time, to the point where you're not only Eve was deceived by the serpent, but their descendants were deceived by fallen angels. And these people, were considered the angelic race that came to this earth illegally. Okay. They were called the sons of God. And the sons of God are the B'nai Ha Elohim. In the Bible, they're considered to be the divine counsel of God in heaven. And there is a biblical and real history of them coming to earth and leaving their first original heavenly estate and coming down to have sexual relationships with women. Okay? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to connect what is an act of the serpent, an act of deception, that led the people to a fallen state to where now they are learning through the system of duality, through the system of the beast. The serpent was the shrewdest of the wild animals. He was a wild animal. He was a beast. And therefore, we are now learning through the system of the beast, the knowledge of good and evil. And you put forbidden angelic knowledge into the hands of a child and you could have a catastrophe really quickly. So we see we are now eating the fruit of a different type of tree where we are learning by ups and downs, good and bad, heaven and hell. We are learning through test and trial. Our experiences are different. Our eyes are opened to the truth about evil. And so we see that playing out in the pre-flood days that is leading to a time where the knowledge of the angels only brings about the destruction of the world. Let's go to Psalm 82:1. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Okay, wait, did I say gods? For my Christian brothers and sisters, yes, I did. We have information age today that we are living in, and we are looking in the past at an information age that they were living in, an age of angelic knowledge, an age where they had access to information that was beyond their time. Again, it's like putting a gun in the hands of a baby. It's not safe. It's not a good idea. And Psalm 82 references the gods, the divine counsel that in the midst of the gods, he holds judgment, So God is the intelligent designer, the all-knowing, the omnipotent, but then we have an angelic order, right? We have an alien race of beings who are far more intelligent than humans, of course. And they're called gods with a little g, right? We hear about it all the time today. So this is a reality of the past, and it's a reality of our present with stories, not just stories, but desires for the gods of old. And the sad part about it is, do we realize what it is that we desire? We desire to eat from the tree of good and evil, so much so that we desire what is called gods who really enslaved the people. But you would think they freed the people, right? They taught them knowledge far beyond their time. They taught them so much knowledge, So why aren't they for the people, right? Wouldn't you think they were for the people? They're helping the people. No, they're putting a loaded gun in the hands of a baby. And then you are looking to this order of alien beings, right, to protect you from knowledge that you don't know what to do with, that you can't really manage and handle because you're not ready for it, or because you're living in a fallen state, in a world where this knowledge is detrimental. This knowledge will consume you instead of, take you where it is you think you want to go with this knowledge. So my point is, we have, again, a connection to the information age of old and the information age of today, and the longing and seeking for the gods of old. What were the gods over the nations? This alien race, this angelic order, who taught the people this knowledge and then ruled over the people, and they ruled over them like tyrants. So what is it that we're longing for? What is it that people are longing for today? They want to reconnect with these entities of old that were in the days of Noah, that were judged and cursed for a reason, because it came to a planet that wasn't theirs. It was, God's, okay? It was Yahweh's. It was his earth. Christ created it. And they came and they took over, and they infiltrated the genome. They infiltrated the planet. They infiltrated the DNA. They infiltrated everything and made their mark, and wanted to consume what wasn't even theirs. So we are so enamored by alien invasions and alien races working with other aliens, and just things that we see in history were a catastrophe, and we rush into it with vigor, and we seem to have no brakes on the matter to pause and reflect on the days of old, the pre-flood days of Noah, when this was happening, and this was an atrocity, was apostasy, it was outrageously criminal. People were suffering. But what happens, right? All the mixing and all the eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil eventually corrupts the heart of man to where, they long for this type of life. They lust after it. They're feeding their babies to these entities for sacrifices. And my time is almost up in this video, so join me in part 4 as we begin to pick this up and study more the days of Noah so we can understand our present day. Thanks for tuning in. God bless. I'll see you in part 4.